following program on Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations. The following program contains opinions of the participants and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network. The network believes in a safe space for all ideas to be expressed and on its duty to create such a platform for free speech. Viewer discretion is strictly advised. From Studio 24 in Colombo, for a real view, real opinion, and for an honest conversation, it's time to get real with Mahieash Johnney.
A very good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Get Real, where we discuss about issues that impacts you. We speak to notable newsmakers here at home and also from all around the world. Well, tonight's focus is about politics. I understand it's a very dreadful subject to speak about, but the thing is this: just because it is, not that much of a sweet taste when we are discussing about politics, we can't just omit it because of the simple fact politics is what governs this country, and it'll tell us where this country is heading. And more importantly, we need to understand, just because it's hard to discuss, or actually it is bitter to keep engaging in it, we can't just omit it just because it's hard. We have to keep engaging. We have to do the things that matters and make sure that if we are in a rough position right now, well, it is our duty to make sure that it'll become better as we move on. In order to discuss about Sri Lankan politics and where we are as a nation right now, I've invited back to the studio Parliamentarian Udaya Gammanpila, the leader of the Pivituru Hela Urume. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you once again, Parliamentarian. How are things? Because I don't know where to start. I honestly don't know where to start. If I look at, last time when we had a chat right here on Get Real, you were, I think you broke away from the government, you went to the opposition. Now the opposition is with the government is with the opposition. We don't know, very confusing, and we don't know who stands where, because suddenly somebody would, we expect them to go in one way, but suddenly it's not the case. Is that good for democracy, or are we really in a bad place right now?
Well, not only we are in a bad place right now, situation is going bad to worse. Because in order to solve this crisis, we should understand the root cause of this crisis.
Economic crisis or political crisis?
Actually, there are economic crisis is the prime crisis. This economic crisis, firstly, we had a foreign currency crisis. That triggered the economic crisis. Economic crisis caused this political crisis. So, in order to solve this, this cause and effect, the theory introduced by Gautam Buddha. Yeah. So, we have to identify the cause, and we should eliminate the cause, then result will automatically be disappeared. So, we should, unfortunately, present government, I must say, for this crisis, in October 2020, I have said this before, soon after I was expelled from the government.
You were here.
Right? So I explained, as early as 26th October 2020, at a cabinet meeting, I warned the government, we are heading towards a foreign currency crisis, which may trigger a economic crisis. So I suggested to go to IMF immediately to get our loans rescheduled. Then I proposed to, that was in October 2020. Thereafter, I proposed to increase prices of fuel to manage the demand or introduce a quota system. Unfortunately, then government ignored it. But after that, how did they solve the energy crisis? By increasing the liter of diesel from 121 to 450, fourfolds. So increasing the prices is the instrument for demand management. Secondly, I proposed to introduce a quota system through a cabinet paper. Government rejected it. But in the end, you may recall, 1 year from now, we used to have a quota for our ration. 20 liters for cars, 5 liters for three-wheelers, 3 liters for motorcycles. So, I want to say is, we forewarned, we identified this crisis well in advance. We warned the government. Unfortunately, then government ignored it. And then you may recall, I had media briefing and said that we have to limit the import of non-essential goods to keep the limited foreign currency for essential goods such as medicine, fuel, then raw material for industry, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, government didn't listen to us. They took the country towards the crisis. But you were the
government. You were part of the government.
That's why we raised these issues in the government, at the cabinet, at the government parliamentarian group. Unfortunately, government did not listen to us. Then we had no choice but to come and tell the people, we are headed towards a crisis. These are the causes, these are the solutions. On 2nd of March 2022, we launched a booklet called Mulu Ratama Hari Magata. Right? So, objective was to take the entire country onto the correct track. Right? Then, instead of implementing what we proposed, they got rid of us considering we were a nuisance.
Parliamentarian, we remember exactly what happened after that, the incidents. But what I'm interested to know right now is, are we at a better place now? And if we are not, why do you say so?
No, not at all. It's appeared to be better than what it was, but only appearance. Situation is much worse than where we were.
Explain.
No, we are not pay. Now see, what was our crisis? We used to spend more than what we earned, several folds. We bridged the gap with borrowings. That was the case for state revenue. There was a rupee crisis. Johnny, we always refer to this as the crisis. But there are two interwoven, independent crises. Actually, our situation is quite similar to the situation what India faced in 1991. The same situation. Government has no rupees, country has no dollars. So, two independent crises. If you take the dollar crisis, we usually export, our export income is around $10 to $12 billion. But our import expenditure is $20 to $22 billion. So, we had a gap of $10 billion. We financed this with borrowings. So, but we never tried to improve our exports or decrease our imports. So, the gap continued. So, in order to repay the money borrowed, what did we do? We borrowed further from other sources. But by 2020, our lenders realized that we have no capacity to repay our loans, service our loans. We should not give them any further loans. That's how we got stuck. So, India faced the same situation. Realizing this, what did they do? Firstly, they encouraged the people to produce whatever producible in India, grow whatever cultivatable in India. Thirdly, there was a campaign called Buy Indian, Be Indian. In Sinhala 1970 to 77, there was a similar campaign called Siri Lakade, Siri Sapade. Buy Indian, Be Indian. To be a true patriotic Indian, you must purchase Indian products.
Have you done that now?
No. Now, after 30 years from that campaign, India is an emerging superpower, fourth nation to reach the moon. And when we were in crisis, India was the biggest lender to us. But have we, for last 2 years, now our crisis is almost 2 years old. Have you ever heard from the government any encouragement for the investors to produce within the country? Answer is big no. Have you ever seen you are a media personnel, have you ever seen a media campaign with media institutes or educational campaign at school level, encouraging people to purchase local production?
We actually did that during COVID.
What I'm asking about the government.
No, I mean, I think during the COVID time when we were talking about, I think it was your government at that time. You all encouraged it, but we never continued.
What I'm saying is, as a solution to crisis, if we don't have adequate foreign currency to finance our import, we should limit our imports and encourage producing whatever possible. We can't produce everything within the country, whatever possible. Now, what has government done? Instead, government has stopped repayment of the loans. Last year, we had to pay $7 billion. This year, $6 billion. We have not paid. Last year, of course, we had paid $2 billion out of 7. This year, no single dollar at all. So, since we have not repaid our loans, only one hand, we have now foreign currency. On the other hand, we have further borrowed $7 billion. No, we had 57 billion loan portfolio. We got into trouble because we had no capacity to repay our loans. Now what we have done, stop payment of the loans and further borrowed. So our burden has been increased. So we should expect another 2022 in very near future.
I'm trying to understand is the fact that these so-called economic pundits, when you all were in the government, who were saying that these are the solution, go to the IMF, do all these kinds of things, now basically told us instead of borrowing from this shop, go and borrow from that shop, because they were not happy with us borrowing from China or from India or any other country, to go and borrow it from the IMF. Has that benefited in any way to this country? Because we went to the IMF and I think the structural processes are still ongoing, but it looks like it's not beneficial for the people. It is beneficial for the creditors. This time's budget came out and apparently it's not exactly, I mean, we don't know because the president didn't exactly spell out everything at the budget speech. Now, the debates are going on and we are finding out new things are coming out from those speeches. Do you think that going to the IMF, because you also believed going to the IMF would solve the problem?
I am the first cabinet minister to propose this. I was supported by ministers like Ramesh Pathiran, Ali Sabri. They were supported me.
So was that the right thing?
Now, of course, yes. Now, I said what happened in India in 1991. Then their central bank governor, Dr. Manmohan Singh, had a very progressive, productive, far-sighted agreement with IMF, and they were able to come out of it. In 1998, Russia sought IMF support to come out of the crisis, and they have regained their status as a superpower in the world. Going IMF was the correct thing because we can't, as a small, weak nation, we have no capacity to reschedule our loans on our own because we have to negotiate with our creditors. Creditors are very powerful. We are very weak. So we need a support of a big hand. So we wanted to go to IMF to reschedule our loans firstly. Then local restructuring program which should be in our favor. Unfortunately, firstly, this as I first said, I advocated going to IMF for rescheduling loans. But on the other hand, I voted against the IMF agreement in Parliament. Why? Reason is this agreement is not in favor of the country. Of course, I came here, you may recall, with Derana Vikramaratne. I explained this in detail. Then, worst thing is, even IMF considered making the local economy stronger is the solution. That's why there is a condition in IMF agreement, I can't remember the clause, but I'm dead sure it's there because I have gone through the agreement several times, that government should gradually relax the import restrictions over a period of 4 years. What's the duration? Over a period of 4 years. But government has relaxed import restriction within 4 months. instead of 4 years, 4 months, and they proudly announce, except vehicles, you can import anything else what you want. So how can we, IMF has given 4 years because local industries should have some babysitting period to come out, and it should be able to face the competition coming from the well-established products from other countries. That's why IMF prescribed a period of 4 years. But government has destroyed our industries by relaxing import restriction within period of 4 months. Secondly, unnecessarily, being a former energy minister, as a person who has some understanding about the energy sector, I have no hesitation to say unnecessarily increase the electricity bill, making local products more expensive in production cost and incompetitive in the world market.
What's the goal there? To weaken Sri Lanka?
No, not really. They are very short-sighted. They had a goal. They wanted to restructure the CEB and attract investors to the certain segments of the CEB. For that, they have to make the CEB balance sheet more lucrative. So they want to get rid of the brought down losses as well as debt, as you correctly pointed out. Then, now let me tell, the latest figures I looked at was 23rd November. On 23rd November, 64% of our power generation was done by hydropower stations owned by the government. Average cost, according to the CEB statistics, production cost per unit is 3 rupees and 7 cents. Let's add administrative, distribution cost, wastage, corruption, this and that, everything. Let's make it 350. At what price they sell? Around 40 rupees per unit. They 350 to 40 rupees means they charge 11 folds of more than 11 folds of the actual cost. How can a industry survive?
When they said no, the reason that increase is occurring is cost reflective, because that's
not
what
cost reflective. It's wrong.
Why is it wrong? Because
what happened, right? Frankly, there was a drought. Our monsoon rain did not take place as expected. So in months of June and July, there was a drought. So they had to heavily depend on thermal power generation, which was very expensive. Unit cost is more than 100 rupees. True. But from mid-August onwards, there was heavy rains. In fact, unprecedented heavy rains. You may be able to recall, Mathara, the district of our present Minister of Power and Energy, was frequently under flood. I thought, well, rain has come and knocking at the door of minister says, hey, we are here. Now you have adequate water for hydropower. So there is no reason. So if there was any loss incurred because of excessive use of thermal power plants, it can be set off because of now excessive use of renewable sources. On 23rd of November, power generated with renewable sources was 88%, colossal amount. Thermal power, thermal power except coal is relatively cheaper than diesel and other petroleum products, was just 3.6%. Thermal power generation, 3.6%. And there was no logic, no justification to say we have increased the price to reflect the cost. This is totally wrong, and they can't substantiate their claim with statistics.
I want to go in for a break, but before that, very quickly, should there be a price formula for electricity as well?
I'm always for it, and I was
weekly, daily.
No, actually, my assessment is monthly. Then adjustment would, if it's going to be changed daily, you can't figure it out, and you
can't forecast.
When producers give an invoice or a quotation, they have to estimate the cost. If it fluctuates on daily basis, that will be near impossible. But monthly is a reasonable. Then even there is a fluctuation, that change would be insignificant. So monthly change would be ideal, and it must be transparent and truly cost reflective. There should be not any hidden agenda.
Talking about politics and hidden agenda as well. Parliamentarian, let's take a short commercial break. I'm in conversation with Parliamentarian Udaya Gammanpila, the leader of the people through Hello Udaya. You're watching the program. Welcome back everyone to Get Real. We're talking about Sri Lankan politics. Parliamentarian Udaya Gammanpila, the leader of the Pilvi Thuru Hela Urume, is here with me. Let's talk about the utmost holiest place when it comes to democracy, which is the parliament. Supposed to be. That particular institution right now, honestly, I'm being very honest here, as a citizen of this country, nothing constructive to the people of this nation seems to be coming out. Even when we listen to speeches made by certain members of parliament, we're never inspired. It's basically a nice gossip hunch. It's good, it's entertaining. We like to hear those kinds of, back and forth and coming like. But at the end of the day, if you actually put it into a bar graph and figure out how much of information came that actually helped the people, because we are not in a very nice situation in this country. We are in an economically dire situation where we want our leaders to work. What's going on in that institution right now?
Johnny, bear with me. I may partly blame the media for this current situation. It is not true that politicians do not, our majority of parliamentarians are professionals. A lot of people think they don't have even O levels or A levels. But it's not true. Because I could remember one politician himself has said majority of parliamentarians don't have O levels.
Yeah.
Then I probed into this in the previous parliament. Then I found, when this parliament, nearly 40 lawyers, 11 medical doctors, accountants, engineers, bankers, teachers, it's a pack of professionals. So many PhD holders, so many postgraduate holders, graduates. So our parliament majority are professionals, and they do speak professionally. For instance, there are so many good speeches in this parliament about effectiveness of present budget, impact of present budget, what are the root causes of the present crisis. Unfortunately, Johnny, people have no time to watch parliament from 9:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. They see the parliament only your news segments. I understand. But your internet media, right? It gives around 5-6 minutes of glimpse of what happened in parliament. But what they show is, if somebody make a very factually rich, analytical speech, it would be ignored. But if there's a juicy speech with double meaning stuff and slinging mud at somebody, then if he's attempt to hit somebody, of course that will be the news of the night. Because of that, parliamentarians are now compelled to make crack jokes, talk indecent speeches, because as parliamentarians they want to show their face in news bulletins, because they want to show that now they have told their voters, look, this month I am not available to you, I am in Colombo participating in the budget debate. So they want to ensure that their face will be telecast in the night, and his speech will be published tomorrow in the newspapers. For that, the problem is, there is a English saying, rulers are a reflection of the society. Let me amend it to say, Parliament is a reflection of the society. We have drastically come down in our values, our quality. I'm not blaming you, because, as you know, owners of all these media institutes are my good pals for now several decades. I have questioned this. Why do you telecast? Then they have said, look, unless we telecast these juicy stuff instead of academic stuff uttered by you all, people will stop watching our channel. We are doing a business here. In order to earn advertising revenue, we have to give what demanded by the people. So our country is in a very bad shape. Our quality, our taste has badly gone down. That's why media has been forced to telecast only nasty stuff happening in Parliament.
Parliamentarian, the problem and the solution lies right there, isn't it? If by any chance Parliament is a place where laws are being enacted and brought into force, and it is the place where the policy and the way forward.
And we oversee the government.
Exactly. All that is occurring, and it is supposed to be the utmost, supreme place of our constitution and of our governing system, of our democracy. Shouldn't we try even more effectively than what we are doing right now to change that? Because if the people are yearning for drama and the Parliament has become the soap opera for them to watch, shouldn't it be the other way around as parliamentarian?
Actually, parliamentary speeches do not make any impact on country's direction. Decisions are truly taken at committees. But believe me, most of the members, although they are my colleagues, I must say this, most of the members rarely attend committees. In most of the cases, we are struggling to find the quorum to function the committee. Why? People do not vote for these parliamentarians on the basis how productive they were in their parliamentary work, like attending committees, questioning government officers, raising oral questions, introducing bills. Instead, people vote, he witnessed my wedding, he attended to my father's funeral, and he lavishly spent for our functions. They never hesitate to give donations. They never question how this ordinary parliamentarian is rich enough to sponsor our sports activity or this New Year festival or whatever. Instead, people glue to those politicians because from people's perspective, they are the good ones. The people who say, I don't have money, I have no capacity to help you. If I'm going to help you, I must be corrupt. Then people leave those politicians. So we need a structural change in this society. Yeah. We can't change the parliament without changing the society.
Who's going to take the lead?
Well, I think we need a person like Mahatma Gandhi, spiritual leader, like Mahatma Gandhi, Anagarika Dharmapala, so even our religious leaders, right? Rather than blaming the parliamentarians, understand, that's what I said, Buddha has always asked to go to the root cause and get rid of the cause, then problem will be disappeared. So we should address we should understand every single institute has been collapsed, non-functional, because there are attitude issue about the social issues. I think fundamentally our problem is with education. Our British rulers introduced this education system to produce clerks for their clerical works because it was too expensive to bring clerks from England. But we still maintain that repetitive exam model education system. They don't force us to how to discipline, how to improve teamwork, how to be innovative, how to be critical. Nothing has been taught, even how to eat, how to talk. Nothing has been taught. Both of us are product of Sri Lankan schools. Have we learned how to eat, how to talk at school? There are textbooks. We have to somehow keep those stuff in mind and repeat at the exam. You know, I became island first at the A-levels. I became island third at grade 5 scholarship exam. So I know this system well. Yeah. But it was useless. I have gained nothing from those stuff I learned at school. Fortunately, there are certain inspired characters who shaped me to who I am today. Therefore, firstly, we have to change the educational system. Secondly, our religious leaders, or even YouTubers. I think nowadays YouTubers are more influential than the religious leaders. Whoever who can influence the society should take a lead role to change the attitudes of the people. Then, when people change, politicians are forced to change. Otherwise, they have to get lost.
Absolutely. A lot more to discuss with parliamentarian, the leader of the Pivithuru Hela Urume Udaya Gammanpila, with regard to lots of other areas. But I really want to focus after the break about the presidential election and also the general election, which is due next year. Where are we heading as a nation? This is Get Well. We'll be right back. Welcome back everyone to Get Real. I'm in conversation with parliamentarian Udaya Gammanpila, the leader of the Pivithuru Hela Urume. We've been talking about a lot of issues pertaining to Sri Lankan politics. The thing is, we have to talk about it. We can't just omit it because it's difficult to talk about, because if we are going to run away when things are difficult, then we are not exactly a civilization that needs to exist. Being here, civilization has been here for millions of years. The reason is they actually saw a problem, they talked about it, they figured it out, and they went ahead. Right now, Sri Lanka also has the same kind of issue. Presidential election is the next big hurdle, parliamentarian, that's going to come in 2024. Lots of things are going to pop in 2024. We will, because of the presidential election, we will see lots of new measurements coming in. Now, one of the biggest issue here is going to be Sri Lankan politics per se is a handout system. The leaders, unfortunately, the leaders have to give something good, which is not beneficial for the country as a whole, to the voters in order to get their support. And it looks like that's where we are heading. People are still looking for some kind of relief per se. That's the word they use. The handout is basically a relief. Will we see something like that before I get your opinion about the candidates, or are we going to have a new type of a presidential election this time around?
Well, if we really, genuinely want to come out of this crisis, our next president should have got to say, we are in this crisis because of the too much welfare, too much government expenditure, too heavy government sector. So we have to cut these down. Then we should start producing locally. In the early stage, quality would not be good. You can't make the internationally renowned products, but we have to bear with it for the forward march. So then we should stop financing our consumption through borrowing. Frankly, President started, right? His
That's exactly where I was even thinking.
Budget speech quoting Gautama Buddha in this respect.
Yes.
But unfortunately, he concluded his budget, right, without, first time in Sri Lankan history, no single revenue proposal in that budget. Only expenditure proposal to the tune of 213 billion. No single revenue proposal. What does it mean? Borrowing and further borrowing. So with that, right, we can't go ahead. People are happy. Everything going to be free of charge. That the subsidies have been increased. But what we are doing is we are going to consume our future income. Yeah. Our next generation will suffer worse than what we suffered in 2022. So therefore, ideal presidential candidates should tell the bitter truth to the people, and should, rather than rhetoric slogans, they should come out with a program to come out of this consumeric society to production society, where you depend on income to look after expenses instead of borrowings.
That particular...
Now, Johnny, in this respect, forget everything else that we have. our location itself is the greatest asset. I think I have repeatedly discussed this in previous programs. So we have the potential, but we need a good leader who will tell the bitter truth to the people and maintaining continuous communication with the people. He should be able to take this 22 million population towards the future instead of deceiving with sugary handouts, sugary slogans, and attractive promises.
You are a politician who's been in the system for quite some years, and you are the leader of the Pivithuru Hela Urumaya. You're also part of so many coalitions within the parliament and within the political structures. Do you see a leader like that?
Well, unfortunately, no, not. I must be truthful. And I have been telling this in my TV debates for last 2 to 3 years that this is not the way to go forward. People love to hear the people who promise, I will give this free of charge, that free of charge, instead of these theoretical stuff. So whatever it is, now, 1 year from now, we will have a new president. So that president must come out of a program to transform Sri Lanka, to spend what you earn, not what you borrow. For that, we must encourage local production.
Does any political party in that parliament has a plan like that?
Well, I just mentioned in the beginning of this program that we were expelled from the cabinet for explaining the root cause of the crisis and solution for the crisis. So we presented a book called Muluratama Hari Magata, so bringing the country to correct track or correct path. So in that program, we have identified these problems and explained this is the solution.
Why?
But it's not popular, you know.
Exactly. Why? That's the reason. What do you think the reason is for that?
Because it's not what people want. You have to work hard. You have to settle with inferior quality products for a while, not forever, for a while. That's what China did. You may recall 10-15 years ago, Chinese products were considered as the inferior quality products. That was the case with India.
Yes.
But now, they got the most sophisticated, technologically advanced products in the world. So, you know, you without no pain, no gain. That's my motto. If you go to my WhatsApp profile, that's my motto. Our problem is we want to gain without any pain. So we should change our mindset, our attitude.
That's exactly what I started this program by saying. You know, just because politics is a difficult subject to discuss, and it is very, you know, not the.
I'm not popular because I'm telling this bitter truth.
You know, you're preaching to the choir. Yeah. But basically what I'm trying to say is, yes, we have to engage and we have to get new ideas into the system that has not been done prior.
In 2020, my election campaign theme was Think Afresh.
Yes.
Aluteng Hitam.
Yes. But that's the next question I have for you. Now, y'all are seasoned politicians. You've been in the system, you know the society, and you basically have told, you know, this system is not working for Sri Lanka. Now we need the younger generation to come into with fresh ideas and fresh thinking. Is there an avenue for them?
Well, as I said, Sri Lanka has a lot of resources. I said, forget everything else. Location itself is good enough to make Sri Lanka a naval hub.
The reason I'm asking that, parliamentarian, is because there's an influx of youth getting out of this country saying Sri Lanka is not their future.
They are correct, because we may not have anything else, but at least we should have a hope. Our leaders so far have failed to give them a hope. If the government can say, look, recently I watched The Crown and in Netflix, right? Churchill, British Prime Minister, during the war, he gave the hope to the people. Yeah, we are suffering now, but we will come out of this and we will defeat Germany. Now look at the speeches made by Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel Prime Minister, soon after the attack. He first gave the hope that we will get rid of this problem, we will come out victorious. So hope is the best thing people want to cling to. Unfortunately, so far, this government has failed to give that hope to the people. So there are 22 million people in a dark tunnel without seeing a light in the end. So people are frustrated, and as you know, I had the opportunity to live in other countries with my education background, but we opted for being in Sri Lanka. But our younger generation, since they don't see a future for the country, they think, at least I will have a future for myself by leaving the country. We can't say that they are selfish, because even after 2 years of this crisis, government has so far failed to explain how we are going to come out of the problem. President, of course, promised that country will be a developed nation in 2048, yeah. But he has no firstly, he has no program. Secondly, people would not believe him. Or, on 11th September 2016 at UNP convention, he said Sri Lanka will be a debt-free country by 2020. But by 2020, Sri Lanka got engulfed in a debt crisis, and it still struggles to come out. In 1993, he said, as the Minister of Industries, Sri Lanka will be an industrialized country by 2000. But when he said something, unfortunately, opposite happens. So when he says Sri Lanka will be a developed country by 2048, we are very worried about it. We are in fear. So what we need is not dreams. We need a proper program. If he says, give me a minute. If President says Sri Lanka will be a developed nation by 2048, he should set milestones.
Didn't he do that?
He should give a program to reach there.
Didn't he do that?
Not at all.
He gave multiple speeches saying,
Speeches, of course, no program. At least he has no program to come out of forget about taking new loans. He has penned to take 7 billion loans during the first year of his reign. But he has so far failed to come out with a program to how to pay existing $53 billion loans. No program. In this budget, he has planned to further borrow 3,900 billion rupees, highest ever borrowing in the history. So there is a program to reduce our debt burden? Not at all. So he has sugary word, rosary pictures, but no programs. So how can we expect our younger generation to cling to words given by our president?
I actually was hoping for some kind of a relief,
Unfortunately, exactly. I can't give that hope.
Exactly. But the thing is, there's one thing I believe, honestly, parliamentarian, is the fact that if nobody is, showing you the light, well, at least you should try and be the light and actually forge a path that nobody has traveled. It's going to be really hard, but I honestly hope that our younger generation can think like that, and instead of getting out and having a better life, let's be the generation that actually fixes Sri Lanka rather than the one who's going away and then coming back when everything is fine. We should be the owners of this nation and actually be the leaders who can push this nation to the next level. Parliamentarian, thank you very much for coming and sharing your ideas. I really appreciate there are people with different opinions in our parliament, and that is something that I really value in this system. No point in singing the same song. Let's actually change the tune and sing something else. Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back again next week with another episode of Get Real. See you then. Bye for now.
Thank you.
I'm a lucky fella, and I just gotta tell her that I love her endlessly.